I mixed and mastered the song for my very first client. Mixing and mastering is when you transform a song to sound at the bestest version possible by adding separation, clarity, character, loudness, and depth. Being a mix engineer is not an easy task, as it requires a lot of skill and experience, and it comes with a risk that you have to do the job right, like any client will expect you to do. And if I didn't do a good job to meet and exceed their expectations, they'll be disappointed with me, they'll go to someone else, and they'll never come back to me for another service again. Now, before we get started into the video, if you're already subscribed to the channel, then thank you for sticking around. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I welcome you all here. Give this video a like and a comment, and I would appreciate every single one of you for your unconditional support. Now, with that said, let's move on into this video. So basically, the big question is, how did I get my first client? Basically, it all takes time. No matter how much hard work you put into it, can take you months, it can take you even a year, or it can take you more years. Now, just to give you a brief backstory, when I was 24 years old, I graduated with a first-class bachelor's degree in commercial music from University of Chichester in West Sussex, UK. So basically, to begin with, I didn't have much of a portfolio background, nor do I have any work background to kind of prove to these companies that I can actually do the job and show them that I am a high value and low risk. And that is the two main things that people often do not have that they need to prove to these employers. It's high value and low risk. I was kind of forced into the idea of just being my own boss. I've made the YouTube channel, posting my own mixes, my own instrumentals, and my own originals that actually led me to get my first client, which I'm going to tell you right now. One time that I put up an Instagram story basically showing people what I was doing, but then at the same time I was asking people to mix and master music by saying DM me for mixing and mastering inquiries. And then I eventually got a band called Feed the Sun, who are from Trinidad, basically reached out to me asking what my rate is. Now, I didn't really want to give them a specific rate, as it was my first time doing business and I didn't really want to extortion money off of them. So they named their price anyway, which I'm going to be reviewing later into this video. So later into this conversation, they've actually opened up to me about their disappointing experience that they've had with this so-called mix engineer who couldn't do a very good job, and the result was very unimpressive. Now, I'm not going to name and shame that person who did the mix for them. I don't even know the person, but apparently it took that person 1 month, and I mean 1 month, to get that mix done, when I could have just got that done myself in just under a week, and the mix sounds absolutely full of energy and life. Now, I just want to be clear here for a minute. I'm not knocking down on any mix engineers out there, especially to those who are beginners and they're trying to get their foot in the door and do the best job as they can. I believe it is an important skill to learn when you're a DIY musician and you're trying to do demos with your band until you can get someone else to finalize the mix for you. I just have a problem with the incompetence and the excuses for their laziness and their procrastination. Now, let's quickly go over the mix and see what I've done so far. Okay, here we have my Reaper project. So this is completely raw. I'll play it for you quickly. So first of all, the drums. I decided to go for Easy Drummer because the band's already using it. Also, I was going to use Get Good Drums, but for some odd reason, when I import the MIDI, it doesn't really cooperate very well. Like, it wasn't syncing up with the audio very well, like whatever. If there's a solution for it, let me know. So as you can see here, I have a few tracks basically blending samples, which I'm not going to go over too much, but samples that I blended are through a bus. So we got the kick bus, we've got the snare bus, we've got the tom bus, and then the cymbals, the paracomp bus, and then we even got a room as well. So I got a few tracks that are blending drum samples, like the kick bus track, then we got the snare bus track, and it basically has EQ processing only, and maybe a bit of phase alignment as well, which I won't show you too much on that. So here we got the kick bus. So I'm countering some mud here and then getting rid of some clickiness around this area. Then we got some compression with a bit of slow attack, I believe it is. Then we got fast release and then some drive, so not too much drive here. And then countering some low end because it was a bit more boomy, so I've let that counter it. Max bass just to give it a bit more bite. And then we got JST clip just to give it like a little saturated thud to it. So next up, the snare bus. So here I'm giving it some body and then countering some highs around here, and then countering some 700 hertz here, and then adjusting the transient with this transient master here. I quite like this plugin. So increasing some attack and then increasing a bit of sustain, just because I want a bit more splash from it and a bit more punch, and then with some compression on it, and then bumped up the lows on it as well because it was lacking a bit of body, so I bumped that up. And saturating the snare with a decapitator plugin to about 4 on the drive and nothing else. And then we got JST clip, basically giving it a bit more loudness and a bit more slap. And the rest of the snare tracks is just EQ processing. So the rest of the tom tracks have some EQ processing, and then that goes through transify, like adjusting the attack on the low end, and then the high end on the attack as well, and nothing else. So the treble and the bass is turned on, and then through a compressor with fast attack and some fast release there, and then through a clipper as well, just to increase loudness. Then we got the cymbals. They also have EQ processing, so nothing else has been done to them. Through a COA just to get them sounding loud enough, but also not too much compression, so that's got some slow attack and fast release on it. Some more EQ processing. I found it was a bit too ear piercing, so I bumped down the 10,000 hertz to it to about -3 dB. I've used a Soothe plugin to counter some of the resonant frequencies. It's a very good plugin to counter some of the resonances, and it's a very good investment, so definitely get this. And then we got the room with a lot of compression and saturation, so I basically did a 5-band saturator there just to kind of like make it bloom a bit more. So the first plugin I used was CLA, about -10 dB of gain reduction, with slow attack and fast release at a ratio of 8, and some EQ processing countering some of the mids, and then the high mids just to kind of like make it a bit less boxy, and then a low cut down to about 150 hertz. And then here we got a power comp bus, so the attack basically focuses on the punchiness of it, and the sustain gives it a bit of splash as well. I had to counter some low end here. I've put a saturator on it to about 40% on warm tape, and then we got some compression going on with, yeah, fast attack and some fast release as well. And then the sustain is basically just slow attack and fast release with just this compressor. So I'll let you hear the drums before. And after. And next up we got the FX bus, which I did not do anything crazy to it, but I've been kind enough to put in some sub impacts, the slam impact and a cymbal rise, just to kind of give it some character for their breakdowns and the intro itself. So nothing too much going on, but it's just there just to kind of like accompany the whole music. I believe it's worth doing just to make your breakdowns a lot more sicker, so it's worth doing it to your music. So without further ado, let's move on to the bass track. This is the same bass track that I've used, which comes as a 1 track, and then I've decided to copy it just to kind of like separate some of the noise. So the bass DI focuses on the low end, whereas the bass grit focuses on just the overall tone of it. So here on the bass DI, I put that down to 200 hertz just for that low end, and then this one to kind of basically even out the bass signal, so that's just fast attack, fast release. We got Saturn just to saturate the whole bass, just to give it some distortion to it. I put that down to 500 hertz. I don't know why, but that's the setting. Some more compression with COA as well, or limiting, we say that, with still a bit of fast attack and fast release. So we got the bass grit here, and I did have an issue with the audio where the bass starts playing. There was like some hiss noise that I wanted to try and counter, or otherwise I had to message the band. So what I've done is I've done this trick with this EQ by putting it down to about 3000 hertz, and then we put dark glass on it just to give it some distortion, and that has an amplifier turned on as well. Otherwise I could have used GDD for it, but I decided to use that just because I thought it sounded pretty nice. Processing here, getting rid of some mud here, and then 150 hertz low cut here, and shelved it up to about 1000 hertz. We got more EQ, basically giving it some grind at around 3000 hertz, and then countering some mids, you know, just to get rid of boxiness. Limiting as well, which gave it some fast slow attack here and some fast release here. Now on the bass bus, I got the Doubler 2 mono and stereo one, so basically just giving it a bit of stereo width, but also like a more chorus effect on it. And then this Pro MB, this is controlled by the kick, and what I'm doing is I'm letting the kick side chain, if that makes sense. I've sidechained the kick to the bass just so that it makes enough room for the kick to play over the bass. So what the bass is doing is it's ducking it as the kick is triggered. So when the kick hits, it triggers this side chain here. So basically ducking the bass. It's always hard to try and get the kick and the bass to sit in the low end, but with this trick that I've just done, this will help. Okay, and next thing we got Saturn 2. I don't know why I did a band split there, but that's the setting. So basically I just wanted a bit more saturation in the top end of that bass. And then lastly we got an EQ, basically getting rid of some mud and then countering some mids around here as well, and that's pretty much it. So I will show you before and after. And next up we got the guitars. Again, nothing too crazy here. I've done this trick that Buster Oderholm has done. He's put that down to about this much, 2,500 hertz. And that basically gets rid of that because we don't want the guitar sounding too genty. And then through Transify, which he has also done, he's increased the attack to 100. He's turned it on and he's turned off the clip. So that basically increases the attack on the pick, giving it a more percussive sound. Through this 14 amp head, I've turned off this speaker cab. The noise gate's on and the grind pedal is on to about this much, and then here's all the settings, you know, should you guys want to know. And then through GGD cab, using Studio Cabs Kali, there's this setting, like both of them's on bright setting, they're the same volume, different mics, different amp cabs. Now I found that it was lacking some character, so I decided to duplicate the tracks 2 times, given it the low end of the guitar sound and then the room noise of the guitars. So for the low end of the guitars, I basically used this setting, so I've turned everything else off except for this EQ here, and then I got the whammy pedal, putting it on full wet on Fatso setting, and then I put the pedal all the way down. For the room noise, I just basically use a reverb plugin, bit of a more dry, wet setting to about 30%, I believe. So we got some more EQ processing. That what Buster Oderholm has done. This is the trick that I've also learned from him. Getting rid of the low end up to 90 hertz, bumping up some mids just to give it more snarl. This gets rid of the harsh frequencies, compressing it as well. Then more EQ, so getting rid of some muds and bumping up some more mids around the 800 hertz, and then countering some high mids around there. And then this one controls the palm muting guitars, so when the guitars are being palm muted, it controls the low end, so it's not too muddy in the mix. And then some compression with a bit of fast attack and a little bit of slow release. Soothe to counter some of the resonances and the high mid frequencies. Pro MB that I've used, that I've also learned from Buster Oderholm, that helps to glue the track together. Saturn, again, I don't know why I did a split bus, but that's the setting. So I saturated the low end a little bit and then saturated a bit more on the top end of it. S1's shuffler, giving it some stereo width, and then the shuffle at 1.4 with the 600 hertz frequency, just to kind of widen the body a little bit, and that also helps to glue the guitars. And the filter, don't worry about that because that's part of the intro. So here are the guitars before with just left and right DI. The guitars with all the tracks together. And now with processing. Next up, the vocals. So this one we're dealing with is the main vocals. I've done the same to every track out there with the same processing, same person and same microphone that's been used. So I counted the low ends to about 100 hertz, countering some of the 1200 hertz around here, and then counter some highs on the 10,000 hertz, some gain reduction up to about -6 dB, which gives it a more like in your face kind of like vocal sound, and I really like this plugin. I use it quite a lot on the vocals. And then some more EQ, which I'm countering 800 hertz, and then I'm also getting rid of the 400 hertz as well, and some more compression just to even out the vocals a bit with just slow attack and slow release. And now with a de-esser, it's on the default setting that I also learned from Buster Oderholm. Okay, I know I keep bringing him up, but he just gives really good advice and good ideas. I'm still yet to try out more approaches in the future. So now I'll show you the signal chain on the vocal bus. So here I'm taming the low end between 20 hertz up to about 150 hertz. And then more EQ processing, countering more of the mids as well, getting rid of the harsh frequency around to about 7100 hertz, and still high cutting it down to 10,000 hertz. Then more saturation on the vocals up to 60% with a bit of bump on the treble and the presence. And more Pro MB. I didn't bother using that because there's already, the low end's already been tamed here, but that just helps to glue the vocals together. And then also more gluing with saturation using the virtual tape machines. So here are the vocals with no processing. And here are the vocals with processing. I also forgot to mention, you might have heard a bit of a difference in some of the vocals. For the vocals panned left and right, I've used the doubler 2 mono just to give it the stereo width effect and a bit of chorus. And then the Little Alter Boy, which is a very good plugin by Soundtoys, I've pitched it down by -2 along with the formant at -2 also. And then I kind of saturate it with a bit more drive, the mix fully wet, and that's the setting. And along with it, I put the vocal delay on it as well. So here's the most exciting part, and this changes everything, the mix bus. So this one here is basically to glue the track a little bit and then bump the drive up to 12. And then some EQ processing, bumping up some highs, and then a little bit of a bump on the low end, and then I've counted the volume to about -9. Then here I got more EQ processing, bumping the high end, well, kind of shelving it, and then bumping some body here, got rid of some more muds around the 250 hertz area, and then getting rid of some of that 75 hertz here. The next is VBC, which is slamming the mix down to about -3 when the snare hits, but when the kick is hit, it's -1. Then next up we got Pultec EQ, which is attenuating some of that low end. Some glue and saturation using the tape machine that I have here. Pro MB, which is gluing the mix together. And then last but not least, we got some more saturation using this this 2-band here, both saturating the low end and the top end of it. This is different, like this has no shift in the tone part. Unlike this one, I basically shelved up the treble and the presence. And that's basically about it. So I will quickly show you what the mix is before and after. So this is before. And after. So that's about it. Coming to the conclusion here, I've started mixing and mastering since 2019, and I'm by no means a professional mixer and mastering engineer, but I know what to look out for when mixing modern metalcore, as I pay great attention to detail. I personally think I could do a much better job, and hopefully I can work with the guys again. Now, you guys are wondering, did I get paid? Yes, I did get paid, and how much was it? Let's have a drum roll, please. It was 50 bucks. Now I want to hear your guys' opinion. Was it a good mix, and is the price fair? If not, why, and what could I do better? Not very long ago, Feed the Sun have released their single on Spotify, and it is titled Sacrifice, and I'll leave a link below in the description. So go check it out, add it to your playlist, and support these guys. And that's pretty much it for this video. So smash that like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos. I'll do my best to release more mix tutorials if you guys wish to see more. So happy mixing, see you later.